Title suggestion: Why consistency is your greatest enemy, according to the I Ching. In the year 1050 BC, a man sat in a damp, torchlit dungeon, awaiting an execution that seemed inevitable. His name was King One. He had been imprisoned by a tyrant who fed him the flesh of his own son to test his loyalty. Most men in that position would have spent their final hours in prayer, in fury, or in despair. But King One did something that would change the course of human history for the next 3,000 years. He didn't plot an escape. He didn't beg for mercy. Instead, he took 64 ancient symbols and began to map the hidden rhythm of the universe itself. He realized that the greatest mistake a leader can make is to believe that the world is static. He discovered that consistency, the very thing we are told is the key to success, is actually the fastest way to invite catastrophe. You are being told today to stay the course and be consistent. But the oldest book in the world says that if you don't know when to break your own rules, you are already obsolete. Sun Tzu used this book to win wars. Confucius used it to build a civilization. Today, we are going to use it to survive a world that is changing faster than our brains were designed to handle. To understand the I Ching, or the Book of Changes, you have to understand the world of the Zhou dynasty. This wasn't a world of abstract philosophy. This was a world of bronze, blood, and bone. The Shang Empire, which ruled before the Zhou, was obsessed with stability. They believed the gods demanded absolute, unchanging ritual. They thought they had reached the pinnacle of human achievement. But King One, sitting in the dungeon of Yoli, saw the cracks in the foundation. He saw that the Shang were failing because they refused to move with the seasons. Think about the last time you saw a giant corporation vanish overnight. Think about Nokia in 2007. They were the kings of the world. They were consistent. They had a winning formula. They stayed the course while the floor beneath them was turning into water. The I Ching is not a book of fortune-telling. It is a manual for reading the state of the field. It is the world's first system of binary logic, the same zeros and ones that power the computer you are using to watch this right now. The ancient sages knew that reality is not composed of things, but of transitions. You are never just successful. You are in a state of becoming successful, or you are in a state of losing success. There is no middle ground. There is only the cycle. We live in an era of the great acceleration. What worked for your father's career won't work for yours. What worked for your business 6 months ago might be the very thing that kills it tomorrow. The I Ching gives us 64 snapshots of change. It tells us exactly where we are in the cycle, so we don't try to plant seeds in the middle of a blizzard. Today, we focus on the core architecture of this wisdom. We are going to look at 4 specific hexagrams that apply directly to your life, your career, and your sanity. The first teaching comes from the very beginning of the book. The relationship between hexagram 1, I Ching, the creative, and hexagram 2, Kuan, the receptive. Most people in the West are obsessed with the creative. We value hustle, action, and grind. We think that if we just push harder, we will win. But listen to what the I Ching actually says about the height of power. The dragon exceeds the proper limits. There will be cause for repentance. This is the warning of the overextended dragon. When you are at the peak of your game, your instinct is to keep climbing. But the I Ching teaches that every peak is the beginning of a descent. To be truly wise, you must balance the creative with the receptive. The text says, "The receptive brings about great success through persistence. But if the superior man takes the lead, he goes astray. If he follows, he finds guidance." Decode that for a moment. In our modern language, it means stop trying to force the market to do what you want. Stop trying to manifest a reality that doesn't exist. Instead, become receptive. Look at Microsoft in the early 2000s. Under Steve Ballmer, they were the creative dragon. They tried to force Windows onto everything. They sued everyone. They pushed, and they stalled for a decade. Then came Satya Nadella. He shifted the entire culture of one of the world's largest companies from know-it-alls to learn-it-alls. He made the company receptive. He stopped fighting the cloud and the open-source movement and started following the flow of the industry. The result? Microsoft's valuation exploded. The actionable principle is this: when you hit a wall, stop pushing and start observing. The path of least resistance is usually the path of most power. The second teaching deals with the moment we all dread, the crisis. This is hexagram 29, Can, the abysmal. The symbol is water over water. It represents a heart-stopping plunge into the unknown. Most of us, when faced with a crisis, a job loss, a failed relationship, a financial crash, try to scramble out of the hole as fast as possible. We panic. We make impulsive moves. But the I Ching says something counterintuitive. The quote is, "Water fills only the deep places and does not shrink from any dangerous spot." If you are sincere, you have success in your heart, and whatever you do succeeds. The I Ching tells us that in a crisis, you must be like water. Water doesn't fight the abyss. It fills it. It stays true to its nature while it moves through the danger. Think about the 2008 financial crisis. Thousands of firms tried to hide their losses, tried to bridge the gap with more debt, tried to pretend the abyss wasn't there. They were destroyed. But look at a company like Netflix during the same period. They were facing the death of their DVD by mail business. The abyss was opening. Instead of clinging to the old shore, they threw themselves into streaming. They filled the deep places. They accepted the danger and moved through it, not around it. Here is a statistic that should haunt you. 70% of Fortune 500 companies from the year 1955 no longer exist. Why? Because when they hit the abysmal hexagram, they tried to swim upstream. Water doesn't have a plan to beat the canyon. Water has a nature that ensures it eventually reaches the sea. When you are in a crisis, your sincerity, your alignment with the truth of the situation is your only lifeline. Stop looking for the exit. Start looking for the flow. The actionable principle. In times of chaos, do not seek safety. Seek the current that is already moving toward the future. The third teaching is perhaps the most famous and the most misunderstood. Hexagram 49, revolution. In the ancient Chinese, this character originally meant a molting hide, like a snake shedding its skin. Most people think revolution is something that happens to them. A new technology comes out, a new competitor arrives. But the I Ching says that true revolution is a matter of timing and internal transformation. The quote is, "The great man changes like a tiger. Even before he examines the oracle, he is believed." Think about that imagery. A tiger doesn't decide to change its stripes. It grows into a new state of being. Its power is so evident that the world accepts its new form without question. Compare this to the panther mentioned in the same hexagram, who changes like a panther, only on the surface. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, he didn't just launch a new marketing campaign. He conducted a tiger revolution. He cut 70% of the product line. He fired the board. He changed the soul of the company before he ever showed the world the iMac. Most people try to pivot their lives by changing their LinkedIn bio or their haircut. That is the panther's change. It is superficial. The world sees through it. The I Ching says, on the day of the change, you are believed. This means your internal transformation must be so complete that by the time you act, the result is already a foregone conclusion. The actionable principle, radical change is only successful when it is an internal necessity, not an external reaction. The fourth teaching brings us to the concept of the wall. Hexagram 60, Chi, limitation. We live in a culture that hates limits. We want limitless data, limitless growth, limitless potential. But the I Ching teaches that without limits, there is no power. The quote is, "Unlimited possibilities are not suited to man." If they existed, his life would only dissolve in the boundless. To become strong, a man's life needs the limitations ordained by duty and voluntarily accepted. Think about a river. If you remove the banks of a river, what do you have? You don't have a limitless river. You have a swamp. The banks are what give the water its velocity. The limitations are what create the power to turn the mill wheel. Every great artist knows this. Orson Welles said the enemy of art is the absence of limitations. When you have a $200 million budget, you make a mess. When you have $20,000 and one camera, you make a masterpiece. Modern decision-making is paralyzed by analysis paralysis. We have too many choices, so we choose nothing. We stay consistent in our indecision. The I Ching tells us that we must choose our limitations. We must ordain our own banks so our energy can actually flow somewhere. The actionable principle. Your success is defined not by what you say yes to, but by the no that keeps your energy focused. Now, we move from the temple to the street. How do you apply this 3,000-year-old binary code to your life this week? Most people watch these videos and feel inspired, but inspiration without application is just entertainment. The sage monk does not deal in entertainment. He deals in transformation. Here are 3 concrete tasks you will perform in the next 7 days. Task 1. The hexagram audit. Look at the 3 most important areas of your life: your career, your primary relationship, and your health. For each one, ask yourself, am I in the creative or the receptive phase? Are you trying to force a promotion that isn't coming? Overextended dragon. Are you ignoring a revolution that has already happened in your industry? The panther's denial. Write down one area where you are pushing and commit to being receptive for 48 hours. Stop talking. Stop sending emails. Just observe. See what the field is telling you. You will be shocked at the information that appears when you stop making noise. Task 2. The receptive hour. Every morning this week, before you touch your phone, the ultimate creative distractor, spend 10 minutes in the abysmal. Sit in the silence of your own mind without trying to fix anything. The I Ching says that sincerity in the abyss leads to success. By facing the quiet that most people are terrified of, you develop the internal sincerity needed to navigate the chaos of the day. If you can't sit with yourself for 10 minutes, you have no hope of leading others through a crisis. Task 3. Pivot mapping. Identify one limitation you have been complaining about. Maybe it's a lack of capital, a lack of time, or a lack of experience. This week, you will stop trying to overcome that limit and start using it as a bank for your river. If you only have 1 hour a day to work on your side project, that is your bank. That hour must be 10x more intense than someone who has 8 hours. Use the limitation to create velocity. Write down exactly how that constraint makes you more efficient than your competitors. Here is the hard truth that the I Ching doesn't sugarcoat. Change is coming whether you are ready or not. You can be the king who maps the change and founds a dynasty, or you can be the Shang emperor who clings to the old ways and is consumed by the flames. The difference is not in your hustle. The difference is in your vision. The I Ching is often called a book of wisdom, but it is actually a book of timing. It teaches us that there is a time for the dragon to fly and a time for the dragon to hide in the depths. There is a time for the snake to shed its skin and a time for the river to freeze. If you feel like you are struggling right now, it is likely because you are practicing consistency when the universe is demanding change. You are trying to be a summer version of yourself in the middle of a spiritual winter. Remember the opening hook. King Wen didn't survive the dungeon by being consistent with his old life as a nobleman. He survived by becoming a student of the transition. He turned his prison into a laboratory for the soul. The world is not out to get you. The world is just moving. If you feel like you're being crushed, it's only because you've stopped moving with it. The only thing that does not change is the fact that everything changes. If you found this useful, The link to the Ancient Strategist playbook is below. It contains the deeper breakdowns of these hexagrams for modern leaders. In the next episode, we will go even deeper into the art of the void and how the greatest generals in history used emptiness to defeat armies 10 times their size. Don't stay the course. Read the field.